Anyone out there in Redditland use the descriptor odd duck? How would you explain that metaphor to a non-English-speaking foreigner or a non-native English-speaking foreigner? Edited to add that I am an English-speaking American looking for the thought of other people on a colloquially used metaphor. I am certain that every language has a similar metaphor. It's pretty easy to explain. Ducks usually look and act like ducks. The odd duck looks or acts different. Replace duck with human, and the metaphor is explained. Yes, it just means someone who doesn't quite fit in. We have a children's book entitled The Ugly Duckling about a duck who doesn't quite fit in with his siblings. He's made to feel bad because he can't do what they do. The twist is that it turns out he is actually a swan, not a duck at all. And he eventually finds his true family and fits in nicely. The moral of the story is that an ugly duckling may actually be a beautiful swan. That's not necessarily the origin of the term odd duck, but it's kind of the same idea. It's someone who doesn't quite fit in, yeah. It just means a person who is a bit weird, but usually not in a threatening or disturbing way, more like a quirky person. I use odd duck and strange bird interchangeably, but it generally refers to someone who is different or not quite normal, but it's difficult to define or pin down, and you feel like calling them weird or strange is a little too harsh. It's a really good restaurant in Austin, someone who doesn't fit in. A lot of autistic people, or people that come off as such, are called odd ducks. So are people that are too quiet all the time or too out there. Yep, used it and heard it a lot. Just someone who doesn't fit in, or just not quite right. I never use it, but it means someone is a little odd/weird/quirky or a little off, but not necessarily in a bad way. Not quite that specific, but odd bird gets thrown around a lot. We've also worked in strange goat, thanks to that newer Grinch movie. Same principle. Something is not quite right. I think it's pretty equivalent with un bicho raro in Spanish. An odd bug, a weirdo. I do, by gum, yes. Something is off different about that. I've used it before. It just means someone is a little different in a noticeable way. I've not heard it, but I would know exactly what it meant if I did because of the context. I've only heard this in British English, not American. I say odd duck quite a bit. The expression was born in the late 19th century from the fairy tale story of the Ugly Duckling, because the poor ugly duckling or odd duck was different, strange, and didn't fit in, all because the little duckling was actually a swan. So I suppose that's the best way to explain it to someone who has never heard the term, that it just means a person who's a bit strange or different, though sometimes we use it with a stronger negative connotation. Yes, but it's more common to say oddball here. What the odd fuck? I might. But I was raised on old British murder mysteries, and so I tend to use it, at least be aware of the meaning of a bunch of old school expressions. Edit. As others have said, it's a way to describe someone who is odd or unusual, but in a generally harmless way. Sure, I use it. Then again, I kind of have a penchant for 1920s American slang. It's the bee's knees. I've heard it, but it never occurs to me to use it myself. I might call someone a character, though. Why an odd duck specifically, though? Can someone be an odd squid, an odd anteater, an odd coconut crab? Apparently it came about with the Ugly Duckling story. But instead of being ugly, the word odd was substituted. I use the expression often. I live in Kentucky. I'm surrounded by many odd ducks here. It's a weird state full of weird individuals. Yep, not odd duck, but weird duck. Note, the meaning connotation of this is different than ugly duckling. Maybe once in a while, but I tend to go for strange cat or weird dude. Unconventional or eccentric, but harmless. Old people, I use it because my grandpa from Michigan used it. But oddball or weirdo are more common out west. I hear it regularly, but not frequently. I don't use it myself. I'd more likely use strange unit. Hold the fort. I've used it ever since I heard Chris Farley's character use it in Dirty Work. I have a coworker who says it all the time. We're in the deep south. It's a strange person. It can be anything really, but someone who behaves oddly in their interactions but isn't batshit crazy. I use it, my kids use it, my parents used it. Not often, but sometimes it just fits. And never to a person's face. But it describes a person who is unusual in some way and doesn't quite fit in. Half my family is made up of odd ducks.